the most useful thing would be to parse out the content of my personal statement to see what I should keep and what I should remove.
Sure. So your personal statement, I looked at it. It's great material. It's quite long though, of course. I think it's about 9 pages in this draft.
Yes.
What would you say is the topic of your personal statement?
I think in this draft, what I wanted to do is put all of the, I guess, interesting events that had occurred in my life on my journey to law school, and then figure out which parts should stay and which parts should go.
All right, so you're listing a variety of interesting events that have occurred over the course of your life up to this point.
Yeah.
Which is a good overview, but that's not what you want to do in a personal statement. You want to pick one event and go really deep on that.
Okay.
Because otherwise it seems like a chronology or a laundry list, and they can get a lot of these things in your resume. Some of them they might not get, and you can choose whether to highlight them or not. But is there one particular event that stands out to you as being compelling and serving as a good topic for the personal statement?
Nothing in particular that stood out as this is my aha moment to go to law school. I think that for some people that's really what happens, and some people it's a gradual process. And so for those who have that gradual process, I don't know, which I fall into that category.
Sure.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an aha moment for choosing law school specifically. It could instead be simply a topic or an event or an experience that illustrates who you are as a person, shows something personal about yourself that they would not have gotten elsewhere on your application.
I see. Was there any thing that stood out to you as something that would fit that category?
I thought that your military experience is quite interesting and unique, and that could be a good topic for a personal statement. I think you want to be careful about how you go about it and put the right spin on it and illustrate the qualities that you want that will serve you best in the admissions process.
Yeah.
So that might be something to do a bit more exploration with.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was also the thing, is I wanted to find a component of my life experience, and then also one that fits with the types of attributes that I want to convey to the admissions committee. Because I think oftentimes they, like some of the prompts they ask you, well, why do you want to go to law school, or what, prompted you to want to go to law school? And the truth isn't necessarily as compelling or won't convey some of those attributes that I want as, some other things, honestly.
Well, which attributes do you want to communicate in your personal statement?
I think, my work ethic and passion for law, and just the grit and the obstacles that I've had to overcome in order to be able to get where I am. I think, that's probably, if I had to choose one thing that separates me from other candidates, it's what I've had to overcome to get where I am.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, if you want to talk about grit and being hardworking, showing your work ethic, I think the military experience could be a great way to do that. I would just start with an anecdote, bring them to that particular moment in time that illustrates that. And then you can zoom out towards the end and talk about why law school in particular, why now, and maybe allude to what you might want to do with the law degree.
Okay.
But focus on that, put the other topics aside. If there's something really compelling about a different experience in a different context, you could perhaps use a different essay for that.
Okay.
A lot of folks will use the personal statement for one thing, the diversity statement for another thing. There are also optional essays and addenda. So there are a variety of different places to show them different angles of who you are.
And I think that's more so true when you get to the top, to the T14 schools. than it is for some of the others. Like I was looking at the George Washington application, and they really only have a 2-page personal statement and like a small optional addition for, I forget what the prompt is, but I think it's something to go, why this law school?
Yeah. So why that law school in particular? And that isn't really a place to talk about experiences of your own. It's more about how their offerings line up with what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think the other component that we wanted to discuss was just the candidates that wanted to go to T14, and I guess kind of what that means. I mean, for me, I am at the tail end of this process, and my stats are 3.2 and a 165. But I also, if I can find a way to nail the personal statement, I think I bring a lot of compelling softs. So I don't know. And part of me is thinking I should apply, this year, or try to get these applications out before, February and March deadlines. And then the other half of me is thinking, well, maybe if I wait till September and be the first one through the door, that I'll have, options at maybe that's one of the T14s might take a shot at me.
Yeah, that's the best way to go. If you want T14, you're better off waiting. Your odds are higher if you apply at the beginning of the cycle, and there's also more scholarship money available.
Okay. Yeah, part of me is just, the downside is I have to wait a whole nother year.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, a long time. Well, how realistic is it to, go to, like if I just apply to a few schools and get into, say, a top 30, top 40, and then with the intent of transferring in my 1L?
Yeah, transferring is tricky. I think it doesn't happen as often as applicants would like it to.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't count on being able to transfer down the line. There's also a certain inertia factor. If you're already somewhere, you're happy there, you have your friends at the school you like, you don't want to have to uproot yourself potentially. So I wouldn't count on transferring. But like I said, you apply at the beginning of the cycle, you have a better shot at getting into top 14 law schools. And then for all the others, your odds of getting scholarship money go up significantly. So you'll have a much wider variety of options available to you if you start at the beginning of the cycle. And nobody ever wants to wait a year. But in the grand scheme of things, if you could get tens of thousands of dollars in scholarship money or get into a better law school over the course of your entire career, it would be well worth having delayed just 1 year now.
Okay. And I think the other hesitation is because my numbers are particularly for T14s, they're like in between the 25th and 50th percentiles, and for my LSAT, and then below the 25th percentile for my GPA. It's hard for me to assess like what are the realistic, like how realistic is it for me to even go to a T14 if I waited? Because I feel like, they fall well within the range of like a top 20, top 30 school. But once you try to get up to that next height, it's like, well, I'm not, I'm a couple points shy in each area.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it is largely numbers driven, and your numbers are what they are. So your options would be either to potentially retake the LSAT, or you could just do everything you can on the other aspects of the application, like personal statement, other essays, recommendation letters, and resume. Make those as airtight as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you apply in the fall, you've got plenty of time to make all of that happen. You can go through multiple drafts of your personal statement, multiple drafts of the other essays. You could retake the LSAT if you want to. It would obviously it would increase your odds a lot if you got a higher LSAT score. But I understand if you don't want to go down that road again. Yeah.
I don't know. It's something I considered. I got a cast on my hand like the day of the LSAT. And so I was trying to take the LSAT, like scribbling with this cast that had just gotten on. I was unfamiliar with how to, move around with it. So that kind of affected me on the logic games and stuff. But, so yeah, I don't know. I have 2 or 3 attempts to edit the personal statement down, and I go in 2 or 3 different directions. And I don't know. I think I probably just overthink it too much, but it's hard to figure out, like, well, not necessarily so much, or just like, what is the content that is the best one of these 3 for me to then hone in and focus on the structure, the quality of the writing, and all those types of things. So I think that's what I'm struggling with most. And then I can, once I just make that decision, then I can focus on the editing portion and move into that.
Of course. Yeah, there's a lot of tough decisions when it comes to writing, and it's hard, especially when you're the one who wrote it and you wrote it recently, you're still attached to it. So you could either have others look at it, or you could take a break from it for a while, come back to it in a week or 2 later, or a month or 2 later, especially if you're going for the fall. You have more time to get some distance from it, so you can come back to it with a more objective perspective on it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, with the state of my first draft, I'd say that's about as much advice as I can take for now. So do you have any other comments or things that you think would be useful for me here?
Well, I think, like I said, I think the law schools love veterans because you have grit, you have work ethic, you're determined. So any story you can tell that will illustrate that, I think would serve you well. So maybe play around with 2 or 3 different anecdotes from your time in the military, and see which one feels best, and then expand on that. And then if there are other experiences you've had you want to share, see if there's a way to work them into other parts of the application, like the diversity statement or the optional essays.
Okay. And do you think it's, I don't know, how do I take my time from the military and tie that into law school?
Well, you don't necessarily have to do it overtly. I think if you show those characteristics that you want to illustrate, then law schools will see, well, this person is determined, they have good work ethic. Those are obviously important traits for law school as well.
Okay. So it can be, I guess the thesis will be more towards, here's this compelling aspect of my life that I want you to know about, and not so much, here's how this aha moment led me to law school.
It doesn't have to be that. And if you, as you said, you don't really have one aha moment like that, don't try to create one. Just go with what you got.
Okay. Well, yeah, I appreciate the advice.
My pleasure. Before we sign off, what would you say is the biggest insight you got from our call today?
I think the biggest insight I got was just, what direction to take my personal statement, and, that my personal statement doesn't have to be, what everybody else's is. It doesn't have to be some aha moment of how I went to law school, that it can also be just, this is a compelling part of me that I want you, the admissions committee, to be aware of.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad I was able to help. Please keep in touch and let me know if you need anything at all as you move forward.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.